6 o'clock, and I'd like to welcome everyone. It looks like we're all here, as Claudia said she wouldn't be able to come until later, like after 7. So I think that's everyone.
Should we invite, is Jinder on?
Yeah, Jinder's on, and he's gonna start off on the script, and he'll handle the public comment piece. And then he'll also be calling the roll.
Yep.
Yeah. So
Good.
Is everyone ready?
Ready.
Okay. This is all being recorded, just FYI.
Good.
So
All right.
take it away, Jinder.
Sure, yeah. Trustee Cortez,
Here, only for a short time.
Trustee Duke Hughes,
Here.
Trustee Fromm, Trustee Lentini,
Here.
Acting Chair Ross.
Here. So I will invite Jinder to explain how the public can participate in this evening's agenda.
All right, good evening, everyone. Viewers are welcome to provide public comment online through Zoom or by telephone at 669-900-9128. And the meeting ID is 973-9200-7851#. If you are watching the meeting on Zoom and wish to provide public comment, please select the raise hand feature either on the bottom of your screen or through the participants icon. If you are participating by telephone and wish to provide public comments, please press *9 when the acting chair opens the public comment period. When it is your time to speak, you will hear a notification that you have been unmuted and you will have 3 minutes to provide your comments.
Thank you, Jinder. Getting started, are there any amendments to this evening's agenda?
Excuse me. Sorry. At some point I'd like to address, hopefully, because I cannot stay on very long, but address the issue of Josh leaving and where we're and talking about that. So I would like to talk about that. And I would also want to just mention, which I sent to Henry. And so if I'm gone by that time, Henry, if you have an opportunity to share with everyone that leadership training that I emailed to you, that might be, if you could send that, if you don't mind either sending it or just talking about it if I'm not here at that point.
I will share the document about the leadership training and my city manager's report. And I think Susan will talk about the previous comment.
Okay, great.
Okay. Later, I assume we'll do that? Or now?
Yes, it will be under staff reports and comments, or if the board brought up anything under their reports and comments, that would be an appropriate time as well.
All right. Why don't we move on and we'll get to that then. I think we're going to start off by approving the regular meeting minutes of September 8th, 2020. Does the staff or any trustees have any questions? Or excuse me, do the trustees have any questions for staff? Excuse me. If not, do you, Jamie? Okay. And if not, should we open it for public comment, Jinder?
There's currently no attendees.
Great. So why don't we close public comment? And since there were no questions raised we'll call the board members in turn and motion and make a motion. Jinder.
I'll motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
Okay, Jinder, can you call a roll call, please?
Sure. Trustee Cortez,
Aye.
Trustee Duke Hughes,
Aye.
Trustee Fromm, Trustee Lentini,
Aye.
Acting Chair Ross.
Aye. Okay, great. with that, why don't we move on to introduction, awards, recognition, and presentations. And I think we are having a presentation on personalized reading picks by supervising librarian Jill Harris. Go ahead, Jill.
All right. Good evening, Library Board. I am excited to, I'm Jill Harris. I'm supervising librarian at the Downtown Library. And I'm very excited to share with everybody about our new personalized reading recommendation service. Is everybody able to see my slides?
Yes.
Yes. Cool. All right.
Yes.
So, yay. So recently we began a new service to try and sort of recreate the sort of browsing experience that is, sadly not able to happen right now because of COVID, and also to increase the amount of readers advisory that we do for the public in a safe way. So readers advisory is basically, making recommendations on books based on, what people like, what people don't like, books they've read recently. We'll even recommend books based on movies the person likes if it's like a kid who doesn't really like reading. And we've been missing that and sort of not able to do that service as much as in the before times. We also created this service to respond to an anticipated increase of book requests from teachers, learning pods, and parents during the school year. We are also trying to encourage patrons of all ages, because this is a service not just for youth and families and teachers, but also adults, to reach out for more personalized service and to make greater contact and engagement with the folks we serve. And another big piece of this service is just to manage our workflow. It allows us to get all the information we need from the patron in one place in order to make a good recommendation. And then it also allows us to distribute the work fairly among all staff, as all staff are helping to fulfill the requests. This is especially significant when it comes to requests for youth materials. Those requests can be time consuming, and we don't want all that work to fall on just the folks who are, quote unquote, children's librarians. So the way it works is we have an online form that I created with Google Forms, and people fill out the form, and then the forms get distributed out to staff evenly, and we go and we use all of our expertise and knowledge and resources available for Reader's Advisory to pick great books for them. Once we've got the books in hand, we call the patron to schedule a curbside pickup, and then happy people have new books to read. It's really pretty simple concept. We've made a point of especially promoting this service to the San Rafael City Schools via their Peach Jar application. So it has gone out, promotional materials on this have gone out to all SRCS families. We've also shared this with school admins who are promoting it to teachers and also promoting it to families as the opportunity arises. And then we also gave out information about this program, among other information about the library, with new library cards, because we did an update of our library card drive. So all kids, kindergartners and other new students are getting this information with their new cards. We also promoted it pretty strongly to Miller Creek. We've been collaborating with their new librarian that they have there, and she has been promoting it to families and teachers. We've also done a big social media push on it through our MailChimp, and we also have been putting bookmarks about it in our curbside pickup bags. So we've had pretty steady business with this. As of the 9th, we've had 81 forms submitted, and each form can request books for multiple individuals. So adding up the individuals that were served by this, we've served 106 individuals from those forms. And in addition to that, 8 of those forms were requests for groups, such as classes, learning pods, preschools, and that those 8 groups equals an additional 121 people served. So basically, since we launched this service about 6 weeks ago, we have provided personalized reading recommendation service to about 227 patrons. This is what the form looks like, and this is linked to our website, and it's really, again, pretty simple. You know, we just collect the person's information. We have it all in one place. As you can see in this example, we have, this was a parent who is requesting for 4 kids in her family. So this was a pretty fun one to do because we got to, you know, do everything from picture books to YA for this family. And we also offer the form in Spanish, which is exciting too. All right, so I included just a couple of pieces of feedback, positive feedback we've received from the public via email. People really love this service. They really miss us, and I think they're really appreciating the personal touch to this service that maybe they don't always get through curbside. And one thing I also wanted to note was this.
My internet freeze, or is everyone frozen?
I think it must be you. I don't think.
Hello, anyone?
I can hear you, Jamie.
Oh, sorry. Was
That's
it
okay.
was just a me? It wasn't a whole Zoom? Okay, just checking.
Yeah, no worries. Oh yeah, I wanted to point out that this 4th comment was in response to a selection done by Pam Klein, who I think at first was really intimidated about doing this for youth because she, you know, has traditionally been a quote unquote adult services librarian. But not only is she, you know, doing the work and putting in the time to kind of expand her horizons, but she's doing an amazing job of it because this particular family made a point of saying that all the books that they you know, received were excellent. And that is really all there is to it. And I am happy to answer questions that y'all have about it.
No questions, but love it, Joel. I love
You're
it.
muted.
Thinking, am I muted? I'm muted.
Or okay.
I was just saying I love it, and I love that you guys are always doing new innovative things to try and do more outreach. So thanks.
I have a question, Jill, and first, thank you so much for the service. I've already used it twice for my entire family, and we really, really enjoyed it. I mentioned in the last meeting that my kids were so impressed with the matching. How would they know that I would love this book? And it was just really great to see them, you know, immersed in books again after it was just so hard to guess what the next series would be. So absolutely love it. I've been asking people around, hey, do you know about the service? And some are homeschooling parents, some are public school parents, and I saw that you distributed the service through the schools and the librarians. Have you found that there are some ways that are more successful, like you mentioned Miller Creek, and that maybe we could replicate with the other schools, so that, you know, there's so many messages right now going around that I could easily see how it would get lost in the shuffle, or even subscribing to the newsletter, because I didn't know about it until relatively recently, and that there's just so much that you guys offer that I've been recommending the newsletter, but I'm an N of one. Obviously you guys have much more a bigger bandwidth for outreach. So yeah, just curious as to lessons learned and any plans to continue promoting this so that we get even more people responding.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, our main focus when we promote things, especially for youth, is usually to the public schools within our service area. Of course, anybody in Marin can use the service. In fact, we've had people, I noticed somebody who lives in the Valley the other day was using it, which is awesome. But I definitely think that we could broaden our promotional efforts because we definitely want to be serving the learning pods, and in particular, I think the distance learning pods that are serving low income families who can't necessarily afford a private tutor to run their pod or things like that. So we're always open to new promotional opportunities, and one that I know that we were going to start pushing it out to was some of the local mommy blogs, like Marin Mommies, Ronnie's List. We usually get a lot of renewed interest in things, like another wave of interest in things when we push things out to those. And the other piece that I have been kind of brainstorming and would always appreciate any ideas or feedback on is promoting it more to adults, because we haven't had nearly as many requests from adults. And I don't know if it's like a tech barrier or, and there isn't, like, to me, as easy of an avenue to promote as there is with the schools, because with schools we have this peach jar service that it just gets pushed out. It gets pushed out to everybody in the school. So yeah, any suggestions you have, I always appreciate that.
Yeah, something to think about, because the form is so easy to, it could not be easier. And you can do it on your phone, and a lot easier than some of the online resources, right, that we use to use books. Certainly fewer clicks. So yeah, something to think about, definitely, but could benefit a lot. I also filled it in with my own book preferences, and I got a really great reading list now, or reading package. So definitely something to consider for adults.
I was gonna ask you if you were marketing this to adults as well, because coincidentally, I actually saw that you were offering that when I was looking online recently, and I thought that was really cool. But I also just was meeting with my book group this afternoon and thinking, wow, this would be really great if, book groups could take advantage of this. Have you thought about, in terms of adults, like teaming up with a place like Whistle Stop or some of the retirement communities, and using whatever their resources are, their newsletters or their promotional avenues, to actually engage more of the adults? I also know my parents, who live in a retirement community back east, when they were locked down, were just bored out of their minds. And I'm sure they would have welcomed something like this, to take advantage of. So I think it's an awesome program, and I'm kind of super excited that you're doing it, and hope that it does expand to more adults and word gets out. So thank you.
Yeah, so I definitely agree that there are opportunities for partnerships with organizations that serve adults. I will say that we have a pretty robust outreach service that serves a lot of our within the city of Santa Fe retirement communities and care facilities, and we've promoted it to those. It's not quite taken off as much, I think, because of the tech barrier, and also the way that book delivery tends to work there is they have one representative that kind of puts in all the requests for the residents. And but I agree that there are plenty of older adults that are perfectly tech savvy and would love to take advantage of it if they were more aware. So I agree. And if you have any ideas of how to reach those folks, I am all ears.
Any other questions?
Just one idea. I know that you've already probably tried it, but maybe it's worth another try through nextdoor.com. I know that's very much frequented, especially these days.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. Our city has a Nextdoor account, so I think that's an avenue to get that out there through Nextdoor.
Great. Given that there's no one on public, correct, Jinder? I don't think there's anyone in public.
Yes, there's still no attendees.
Great. So why don't we call the board members and to offer any comments? Jinder, do you want to do that or should I?
I think we just kind of did that. If they had any questions or comments, they had the time to do that.
Okay, great. Then why don't we move on to the next item, which is a public comment from the audience regarding items not listed in the agenda. As there's no one in the public, I think we can skip that.
Yes.
Okay, great. And then matters before the Board of Trustees. So we're going to review the appointments for the Library and Community Center Working Group. Why don't you go ahead? Is this Jamie doing this?
I will be giving the presentation and Jamie's going to do the next one.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
So I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to go a little quickly through this because we're bringing it back from last meeting. Okay, can everyone see that? Cool. So this is the review of appointments for the Library and Community Center Working Group. On October 7th, City Council directed staff to issue an RFP for architectural services for a conceptual design for a combined library and community center at Albert Park. The goal was to compare that conceptual plan with what we have for the Carnegie location. And then we're forming a working group to help with the selection of the firm and participate in the process that will ultimately lead to a conceptual design, a preferred design alternative. So what we're asking the board today is to reappoint 2 board members to this Library and Community Center Working Group. Background, we've been trying to get a new library for a long time. The recent study looked at 3 areas of the city and then 3 sites for downtown. We recommended the combined library and community center location at Albert Park. That's 26,000 odd for library and 17 for community center. And then again, on the 7th of last year, City Council directed us to move forward with this RFP. Here's a little reminder of what Nolan Tam in the previous study had kind of conceived of it to look like 2 floors. You see in the upper left, the sort of greenish area is community center with retaining the existing huge auditorium. And then the various library areas with adult and teen on the 2nd floor, children's lobby, staff on the 1st floor. We want to retain the garden that's actually supported by a sister city relationship with another city. The RFP includes conceptual floor plans, site plan, elevations, landscaping and parking, and sections through the building showing relationships of the new and existing features. So that we're asking for 4 virtual meetings with the working group to kind of discuss and refine architectural concepts. And that expanded working group will be composed of 2 members from City Council, from the Library Board, this board, from the Parks and Rec Commission, from the Friends of the Library, from the Library Foundation, and city staff, in addition to the members from all those groups. So it'll be a pretty large group. Here's the proposed timeline, which has been, it was moved back from what we originally thought, but as you can see, the RFP has already been released. We have a pre-proposal video conference this week with the potential submitters. The proposals are due on November 2nd. Interviews of the week of November 30th, consultant selected by the second week in December. Hopefully the contract awarded in February, the 1st. And then the project to be completed by the last day of the fiscal year. And so that ends my presentation, and I'm open to questions or comments. I'm going to stop sharing my screen.
Great. Are there any questions from the trustees to staff? Go ahead, Cheryl.
Yeah, Henry, I just had one question. I'm noticing in your summary there that it shows that the architectural firm will be having meetings with the working group, but it didn't show, are they also going to be doing community meetings like they did in the last round, like the big rounds of community meetings? Is that, I didn't see that.
No, they'll also be meeting with staff, but they will not be doing big rounds of community meetings.
Is that something that's being thought of as like a second part to the process, or because that seemed to be a pretty key part of the last couple of phases of this process is having those community outreach engagements?
My understanding is that the various members of the group are representing the community in their capacity for the various boards, and we've expanded that membership to kind of encompass a larger sort of input from stakeholders. And I recognize that the community input is vital, but as far for this RFP, that large scale community input was not included. There will be a meeting with staff in addition to the meeting with the working group, and specifically the library staff.
Okay, I guess I would just say that I'm a little concerned about that because I think there was an expectation set in the community because there were those public outreach meetings. So I mean, it's your call, but it is something that's going to be different than the last phase of work with Nolan Tam. And so I just might be concerned.
So I might be able to add something here. So the idea was the last process, and I came in at midpoint to the end, so I apologize, I wasn't here in the very beginning of it. But the idea of the last time, and the reason why the community outreach was to identify a location for the main branch.
Mm-hmm.
And they really wanted the community to come out, and that's why the survey, to identify several locations, which included Boyd, which eventually included Albert Park and the existing Carnegie site, as well as numerous other sites. In this one, what the council had asked us to do, what the recommendation a year ago is to really refine the recommendation of Albert Park, what a joint library and community center could kind of look like, a basic conceptual design, very basic, almost to the point that it duplicates work that was done by the foundation over 10 years ago, which was a basic 3D modeling and a conceptual design that had very limited narrative to it. So what they want is the council wants the ability to look at all the information that they already have on the Carnegie and just a concept rendering basically on what it could look like at Albert Park. And then based on that, they will make a decision on to which direction they would like to go. And that next step, if it was Carnegie, it'd be a lot more involved as far as you know, it would be more of a final design and construction and all that. If it is Albert Park, then they would do a lot more space planning, programming, et cetera, to refine Albert Park. So really what they're trying to cut to the chase, what they're trying to do is create a model and a graphic. So they have something to go off of because they have all that information on the Carnegie. So it is pretty basic, and all the meetings will be held virtually, unfortunately, unless something should change in the next few months.
So is it their goal that after this process, council will make a decision on the project to go forward, and then at that point, it would become a process that again engages the community?
Yes.
That they're thinking?
So, yeah, so the idea is that we're not quite sure where this is going to lead them, except give them more information, which is what they wanted. It could do one of two things. The city council, once they receive this information, could feel really confident in the direction they want to take, whether that's Carnegie, Albert Park, or a brand new one that we haven't even talked about. Or they might say, okay, now that we have both, we want to further both of them. We want a little bit more current information because a lot of the studies for the Carnegie now are dated. So they might even say, we want additional studies on both. We feel like this is great. We have more than what we did, but we still want more. So this is not in any way a kind of the end of the process. I think it's very much at the very beginning of it.
So in thinking about this, I can understand that as kind of this brand new idea that hasn't ever really been looked at before, that the council wants to get enough data collected to know that it's even possible, let's say, and that it makes sense from the city and staff perspective before starting to go out there and broadcast it. But I guess my caution in the process is not to wait too long, because yes, we're going to have all these joint committees involved. All of us and whoever's on those committees talk to other people, have opinions. And so kind of given the sensitivities around the Carnegie and, you know, how the process was open in the site selection, and there may be some people out there wondering what happened. I guess my caution is, okay, I understand if there's sort of an exercise that needs to be done to just even find out if this idea has any merit to go forward, and make sure that everybody understands what they're talking about, so that you're speaking a common language and it's actually a real thing. But I would just say, don't wait too long and don't let the process go too far then, because before re-engaging the community at large, because I think you had a pretty good and transparent process so far in the most recent rounds. And I think it creates an expectation going forward. And I think that the community, if Albert Park is the solution, I think that our community has to get used to the idea. Like, if it's new to the council, you can imagine how new it is for this community at large to even imagine, even though it's done other places and these joint community libraries, community centers and libraries exist, to our community, it's new. And so again, it's also something that the community has to get used to and understand better as well. So I know I talked a lot, sorry, but these are all the things that came up for me when I did not see any community outreach included in the RFP. And so I just wanted to make sure that I put all that out there for consideration. So thank you.
It's very much appreciated. And all of the information that you just shared with us was explored in addition to much more. It's been a year since it was presented to the city council. And honestly, that scope has increased in size and been brought back and increased again and brought back. And it really was validated with meetings with the city council to make sure what they directed staff to do, that we weren't getting too far off target and getting a little bit too, aggressive or expansive in the scope. So we were asked to come on back. We just want a preliminary concept, something very basic on whether this idea is even worth us pursuing at all. So that's really weird.
I see that. And I mean, I kind of understanding that's where they wanted you to go. And I'm kind of seeing that. And so I think then also the direction to this joint work group that's formed, every time we have a meeting as this process gets going, I think somebody needs to be reiterating sort of the context and the purpose of this next study, because everyone on that committee also needs to understand what is it we're advising you on, and what's the container that we're supposed to work within. So another suggestion.
That's really helpful.
Great. Any other questions? Comments? Jamie?
I just want to bring up one thing that was raised at the last meeting that we did receive clarity on. That's the whole reason why this item was moved to this meeting. Was the question came up, Cheryl currently serves on the Library Foundation Board and is the representative to this working group. So the question was raised that even if she wasn't representing the Library Board of Trustees, if by virtue being a member of both, if she served under the Library Foundation, and we have 2 members of the Board of Trustees also serving on the working group, does that create quorum? Which it does, but does that violate the Brown Act? And yes, it does. So at this point, here are kind of the options. I assume, and Cheryl can confirm this if she would like, I am assuming she is staying as the representative from the Library Foundation Board on the working group.
Correct.
Okay. Having said that, then only one library board member can serve on the working group because she's actually wearing two hats. So what we need tonight is, instead of having two members appointed to the working group, what we'd like to have is one board member appointed and possibly an alternate in case that person is unable to make it, that the library board still has a second person attending the working group. So that's what we're looking for.
This is where my concern is, and Cheryl, I don't know you, so please don't take this personally. I'm sure I know you have the right intention. You're doing this work, right, for the library. We're all volunteering on this. My concern is that, well, first, I would love to understand why anyone, not Cheryl, I'm just talking anyone, can serve on both boards. It feels like there's this interesting overlap of, making sure that we're focused on the board for those activities versus the foundation and the fundraising, and why that's okay in general. I just am curious in that. And then secondly, my concern is really, and I don't want to use Cheryl because she has the right intentions and she has this background, but I'm saying if anyone as her representing the foundation, then I feel like we're losing the board of trustees having their two representatives. So it's like the foundation gets a representative and it gets a representative of ours from the library board of trustees. So that's where, if no one else is concerned, I'm happy to just say, okay, it's not an issue, but I feel like the board of trustees should have the opportunity to have two members who are representing them and their concerns as we've been through this process. Some of us for a really long time, like you said, Susan, even before you had come on, we've been talking about this. So we have some history there. And so I want to lay that out and have a conversation about that in the quick span I can, and just address those two concerns. And Rob and Adriana, if it's just me, then, that's fine. But I just wanted to raise those because I think that we have to just think of, like, for us, do we feel like we're getting represented on the board of trustees? And Cheryl has been a board member and coming on. And please, Cheryl, I hope you don't, it's not a personal thing at all. It's just these are my questions of curiosity.
So I can probably answer a couple of questions, and then the rest is really an opinion that I don't have as staff. So the library board is under the purview of the Brown Act. And the reason for that, it is a government city council appointed board. The Library Foundation, although the topic is the same or similar, or the interest is the same, it is a separate nonprofit that does not fall under the purview of the city government. Okay, so it doesn't fall under the same guidance that the Planning Commission, Park and Rec Commission, or anything else does. So I just want to clarify that. So if she belonged to, or if any of you belong to the Friends of the Library, which I believe in prior Board of Trustees, you had individuals that were on the Friends Board as well as the Library Board of Trustees. There was no conflict there, although maybe similar or sometimes conflicting opinions about the same topic, but there's no conflict there as well. There is one option. If you appointed Cheryl as your board member to be on the working group, she could let go of the foundation, and the foundation could appoint two people because there is no quorum consideration in that regard. So she could count as your solely dedicated board of trustee member, and the foundation could say, well, now that she's going to serve as that, we are still going to appoint two people as our representatives for the working group. In total, so this is kind of where it kind of flip-flops. It sounds better, but if that was your concern, the foundation overall still has 3 representatives on that working group. So this way they still only have 2, and so would you, but you would have an alternate. Alternates can always attend meetings, just kind of like an alternate does at a board or another commission meeting. They can listen, they can ask questions, they wouldn't vote. So that's the other way that you could fully participate. Now that's, once again, those are just kind of facts, but it's up to you to make the decision on which way you would like to go.
Go ahead, Henry.
I just wanted to second what Susan said, and a slightly different way of thinking of it. The way I was thinking of it was, if Cheryl and one other person were representing the Board of Trustees, they would have 2 representatives, and Cheryl would also be representing the foundation, and they have 1 other representative. So even with the dual roles, each group would have 2 representatives. Just one of them would be working for both teams. And I sort of see, I don't have great concerns, and maybe there are, but I don't see a lot of concerns that the foundation and the library board are largely divergent with regards to the new library, as the foundation is dedicated to that as, its one and only goal. And the library board also has that as a big priority. So I think that's another way of looking at it, the way I had been thinking about it, which means we can have our cake and eat it too, kind of. So I just wanted to offer that.
Henry, thank you. And one other thing that just dawned on me, the Friends of the Library are going to be included in the working group this time. They were not last time. And I know that was, I think we all felt that was short-sighted at the end. It was one of those aha moments. And so they're included this time. The Friends of the Library have members on their board that also participate in the Library Foundation, our former Board of Trustees, and if I'm not mistaken, Measure D Oversight Committee. So it's I'm trying to think of a better word than the one that's coming up. Everybody's involved in everything, I guess, is the point. And so we just have to make sure that there's no true conflict of interest and or that there's no breaking quorum. So that's really our only concerns.
But I'm not concerned from a conflict of interest and a quorum. I'm concerned about where we're ensuring that we have a representative vote and that we have 2 of those. And so that's where I'm coming from, is in ensuring that. But again, I don't want to overtake the conversation and let the other members go ahead.
Adriana, what is your thoughts?
Since this was brought up last time, I got a sense that there were a couple of members that had a lot more experience and knowledge and understanding of this process from, previous, sessions and for a long time you've been involved in these discussions. So I was very comfortable letting, the members who have that expertise be our representatives. I didn't have any inclination to do it myself. Just I thought, 3 of you were much better equipped than I would. So I was very comfortable with that. And if we can expand our representation, that'd be great. But no particular preference.
I feel the same. I think that, and I kind of agree. Cheryl, to me, is probably not conflicted either way, since her goal is to get a new library for the city. So I probably have less of an issue having her have a dual, I don't know if it's fiduciary or whatever, role in that, because I think, to Henry's point, they're fighting for the same cause. And in fact, I think that if there's a vote, there'll be an odd number of people, so that actually will probably be better. Jamie, I'm not sure maybe I'm as concerned about it, but I respect your views very much so.
I just want to add one thing, that I've been involved in the process for the new library since Group 4 did their work. So I've been to every single meeting since joint committees started. I also was a member of the Critical Facilities Committee way back when we tried to get the library to be part of the entire bond for public safety and library. So I'm not familiar, and I've been involved all that time as well. So I'm not new. So I just wanted to make sure everyone understood that I haven't just come in now or just come in when Nolan Tan came in. I actually have been involved for some time. So if that helps reassure anyone, I've been involved with this for quite some time. So if that helps.
It would help if I heard any of that. So my computer, I swear this happens every time we're having this conversation. So I didn't hear anything that Rob said. I didn't hear anything that Cheryl said, but I'm sure it was so sorry. It's like right in the middle. It keeps happening.
So
Cheryl pointed out that she had been involved in the previous study with Group 4, and even as far back as the previous tax measure that tried to combine the safety building with library, that didn't actually pan out. But so she's pointing out that she kind of knows the landscape intimately from way back.
Thank you, Cheryl.
So what we're really looking for is for the board to make a recommendation for one voting member on the working group, because Cheryl by default is on both, and an alternate, just in case one of those individuals cannot attend.
who's interested in this role? Jamie, is this something, Adriana, something that you'd like to participate in alongside Cheryl?
I don't know if Jamie can hear you.
No, probably not.
Yeah,
I'm
there she is. Okay.
sorry. What was the question? It's like, this is ridiculous. I'm gonna,
Jamie, is this something that you're interested in participating on the working group?
yes, I think from the previous experience, yes. But I'm happy to do a vote if anyone else wants to be considered. It's
Let's just get who's interested. Adriana, is this of interest?
I think I mentioned it last time. I would step in if needed, but I think we have two members who have far more knowledge about this. And
I would encourage somebody else saying they're willing to be the alternate, because when I participated in this working group the last time around, I don't remember two trustee members always being at the meetings. And I think it is important that we do have two people there for every one of those meetings, especially since there's only 4. So I mean, if one of you would like to be the alternate, I think we should have one, please.
Adriana, is that something you'd be interested in the alternate?
Sure. Are you interested, Rob? And have we?
My job, in normal times, I'm on the road a lot, and I miss sometimes these meetings and stuff. So I don't want to be that person that ends up not being available. And so that's why I haven't jumped at the opportunity. It's tough enough sometimes for me to meet this. So I'd rather move forward with, Jamie being a member and of the working group and you being the alternate would be fine with me, but we could take a vote if Cheryl, if that seems fine. And
I can't remember if Claudia was interested last time. But yeah, happy to be the alternate if everyone wants.
does this go to a vote, Jinder or Susan?
Yes, it does.
We have okay, Jinder, do you want to vote?
So
We vote
what
on
we
a motion. We need to have a motion, don't we? Sorry. All right. So sorry about that. Should we? I'll make a motion for Jamie to be the working group member for the library board and Adriana to be the alternate for the library board. Does someone second that?
do we have a second?
and Cheryl, are we saying that Cheryl as well, right?
Is that automatic, or do we have to say it?
Cheryl's automatic.
Okay, so then I'll second.
Great. All in favor? Jinder, do you want to call the roll?
Sure. Trustee Cortez,
Aye.
Trustee Duke Hughes,
Aye.
Trustee Fromm, Trustee Lentini,
Aye.
Acting Chair Ross.
Aye. Great.
Can I have the meeting ID? I'm trying to call in as well, but I entered a wrong meeting ID. Jinder, do you have that? When I call in, it asks for a meeting ID.
Sure, yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
We might have to text it to her so it's not sent out over Zoom.
I just wanted to mention that Cheryl said 4 meetings. It's actually more than that because there's going to be meetings before the consultant is hired. So, and then November 30th, that is like the hiring week, kind of, that things will start kind of around that time. So,
Okay, see, people got roped into it before they knew all the facts, but okay.
That was our major plot.
It is. Okay, with that, should we move on to item number 5, a review of proposed collection and development policy and gift and donation policy? And Jane, I believe.
Yes, we do have one attendee, so
Oh, we do.
I can read the script and see if they want to make any comments.
Got it. I didn't realize we were an attendee. Okay.
Okay.
Jinder, about what do they want to make comments about? We just closed that item.
For number 4, item number 4, if there's a acting chair opens public comment.
Okay, I thought they already took a vote.
Oh, okay. So I think we can move on to the next item then.
Great.
Okay.
Again, review of proposed collection and development policy and gift and donation policy. Jamie, take it away.
Yes, hello. Thank you for allowing me to present. Today I am trying to share my screen so that I can begin a presentation. Please bear with me.
And Jamie, before you get started, just to help people out, sometimes when there is video and audio feed problems, if you cut your video feed for the camera, the audio won't be affected.
Jamie, I think that she's actually talking to you, not to me, Jamie. It's confusing because there's 2 of us and it looks like she's calling in. Would you like me to wait or should I proceed?
All right, oh, goodness gracious.
Jamie, I'm going to stop your video to help with your audio connection.
Wait, how do I speak though if I'm on the phone because I'm muted?
So you can, okay, this is Susan to Jamie. You can still speak through your computer. I'm just cutting your video feed, but your computer will still pick up your speaker if you're not muted. Okay, Jamie Poirier, go for it.
Okay, thank you so much. I am Jamie Poirier, supervising librarian here, of course, at the library, in charge of collections and circulation. And I'll be presenting this review of the proposed collection development policy and the gift and donation policy. Collection development policies are adopted across the United States to guide purchases, additions, deletions, and other changes to materials that the library provides. It's sort of a guiding document. These policies are written at the local level, though, to take into account best practices, while really allowing for a lot of community-focused needs to be addressed at each individual institution. The creation of a separate gift and donation policy provides guidance on what the procedures would be for accepting a gift, like a monetary, of a monetary nature, or donations, which would be potential physical items. Gifts and donations were formerly part of the collection development policy, but should be treated as separate policies. A collection development policy guides what types of materials the library collects, along with specifications on what criteria is used to add and remove materials, how challenges to the collection are handled, and other issues related to the collection. The current policy was written back in 2013, and the rewrite before you has been written to simplify and streamline the information provided within. A separate gift and donation policy is meant to provide detailed guidance for staff and the public on what the procedure is for accepting gifts and donations. While these could be just monetary, gifts and donations may be strictly monetary or may relate to other programs and services that the library provides. And for this reason, it should be considered as a separate entity from the collection development policy. In more detail about the collection development policy, a simplified, easy to understand policy would provide guidance to both staff and the public, and it needs to be updated regularly. In addition to being 2 years past due for review, the current policy warranted a deep revision to simplify the language used, remove extraneous details related to internal processes and procedures, and update language related to the library's merger with recreation. In simplifying the language used, the updated policy now contains only 7 sections. The current policy had 13 sections with multiple subsections. The goal of updating the collection development policy is to clearly state how and what materials the library actively curates in easy to understand language. Additional changes include updating the library's mission, references to the department name, now being Library and Recreation, staff titles, and changes related to the library's expansion. Since 2013, the library has added a 3rd location at the Northgate Mall. So I've included a look at the current policy here before you. This is how it, what the policy states as it relates to materials selected for the collection. And this is the rewrite, going from 11 bullet points and a very wordy description to simplified language and 9 bullet points. Next up, we have a example of the current policy as it relates to replacements of materials. And this actually has a lot of detail about staff procedural items, like what happens if items have gone missing, or if a customer has lost and then paid for a material. Likewise, here's information from the current policy, again, about withdrawing materials from the collection. And it's quite detailed and not very simplified. And this is the rewrite, as those past 2 sections of the current policy have actually been combined to not only simplify language, but since eliminating materials from the collection and possibly replacing materials are interrelated, it made sense to take the 2 previous sections and combine them into one. Let's talk about the gift policy. This policy outlines how the library, again, will accept either monetary gifts or donated physical items. As it's been stated, these were formerly part of the collection development policy, but gifts and donations are not always related just to physical materials, or even just to books if it is a physical donation. Gifts and donations could relate to a new building, programs, events, or other services that the library provides. And this policy is meant to guide staff and provide information to the public on how contributions made to the library are handled. And potentially most importantly, gifts or donations that come with conditions need to be carefully screened, and the city librarian needs to ensure that the best interests of the library and the city are kept in mind, thereby having a specified gift and donation policy gives the city librarian the ability to say no if needed. And I am happy to entertain comments and or questions about this revised document or documents.
Are there any questions from the trustees to staff? Okay.
Hi, I have a question.
Yep, go ahead.
I was slow on muting myself.
Fast.
Thank you, Jamie. This is really helpful, and anything that can simplify, a policy is, of course, the better for everyone. But I wanted to go back to one of the slides where you are looking at the new wording, going to the fewer bullet points. Can't remember what slide it was, because so maybe 7. Yeah, so the selection criteria. So the new, so in the old one, I noticed the absence of diversity and inclusion, representation, that kind of thing. So in the next one, I noticed that it was one of the bullets, right? Bullet 5, contribution to diversity or breadth of collections, unique or controversial points of views. So I really like that. And when we were talking in an earlier meeting about, this was around the wonderful response the library took to the recent social demands for racial and social equality, and all the different events and publications that you promoted. Now, one of the things that we all, I think, agreed on is that sometimes these resources are not picked by, or the manuscripts are not picked by the major publishers, right? So there's a lack of diversity from your pool of resources that you select from. And I remember Henry and Jill mentioned something around the efforts you are taking to help with the not publishing in the old-fashioned way, but in making those manuscripts resources available that might otherwise not be promoted even from the point of publishing. So yeah, Henry, you probably have something to say. I just was wondering if we could be more explicit in these points about a little bit on the how to get to that diversity, that we might not have a pool of published available resources that can help us get to those goals without going a step further in the supply chain to help provide voice to those authors that are not represented. Sorry for making it very long, but hopefully, Henry, you raised your hand. You have
I know Jamie probably has something to say about that, but I wanted to recognize that as a principle that we embrace fully. This is a draft document. We could make that a little more clear. In the previous life or my current life, I'm a big proponent of the self-publishing sort of arm of library collection development. And I think we can assure you that as librarians professionally, we take great pride in kind of going beyond the sort of big five publishers to get to the actual material that actually fits our collection development policy. And maybe at a future meeting, we could talk more about how the major publishers sort of define what the stories are that we read, and our ability and need to kind of push back against that, and not be defined by the marketplace. So I thank you for those suggestions, and we will take them to heart. And if we haven't been specific enough about embracing diverse points of view, we could do a little more with that, I think, because this is a draft that needs to be vetted by other parts of the city ongoing.
Yeah, and I can imagine another bullet could be around, oh, sorry, Jane. Another bullet could be around, regardless of the diversity goal that looking at self-publishing could achieve, just maybe that's another point, right? Helping disseminate the self-publications, because today, you don't need to go through a publisher. You can publish a PDF and that's a resource, right? But of course, with some vetoing for quality. But yeah, I would just wonder if that could almost be a separate category that you're doing a lot of work on that is linked to the diversity point, but it goes beyond that because you are giving voice to individuals who, for many reasons, fall under the radar of the big publishing houses.
Yeah, I think that that's a fantastic idea. I think that we could make it more explicit about our commitment to diversity, not only in represented voices, but also just in trying our best to get our materials in the hands of the customers that really want to read that material. So definitely noted. Thank you so much for that feedback.
And just a point about self-publishing has been seen as the ultimate sort of like, has been seen very negatively in the profession until the most sort of recent past, maybe the early 2000s. And maybe we could add something about going beyond or looking at all sources for points of view and diverse opinions rather than the sort of big five or something to that effect. Just because I think that there's a sort of stigma associated with self-publishing, and now that ebook self-publishing is so possible that many very popular books started out as self-published books. Erin Morgenstern, her first book was self-published. That it really is no longer the stigmatized sort of cesspool of lack of quality, but instead this sort of way for authors to go directly to the audience, and we can sort of help with that. If we could kind of craft a statement, I think that would be awesome.
Great.
Any other questions or comments?
Perfect.
Thank you.
Let's open it to public comment. Jinder, can you go through the instructions?
Yes, we do have a couple of attendees, so I'll go ahead and read the script if they want to participate. If you wish to provide public comment and are watching this meeting through Zoom, please use the raise hand function to let us know you would like to speak. If you are participating by telephone and wish to speak, please press *9 now. You each will have 3 minutes to provide your comments.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm not seeing any hands raised, so I think we can continue.
Great. Let's close public comment. And why don't we, since there's nothing to vote on, let's close this issue and move on to the board reports and comments section. Item number 6, other brief reports on any meetings, conferences, and or seminars attended by board members, which I don't think there are any, but let me know if I'm wrong. Okay. And if not, then let's move into number 7, staff reports and comments. Other brief program updates or reports on any meetings, conferences, and or seminars attended by staff.
Before we start, just to make sure our Board of Trustees know that under board reports and comments, even though that often talks about any meetings or conferences that you've attended, that also would be the time if there was a comment or a question or any other item that you wanted to bring up at this time. It doesn't necessarily mean we can discuss it if it is something that should be agendized, but that would be the time to bring it up. So I just don't want you to lose your opportunity, and then Henry and I take over and then you'll not have a chance to speak. So I just want to make sure.
Got it.
Okay, well, it sounds like Henry.
Your microphone. You can press *6 to unmute.
Okay. Take it away, Henry.
Yes, I was just pausing because I was wondering if Jamie was going to speak, but I'm not sure if she is, so I'm just going to go forward.
Me?
So Henry, before you go, I'm going to say something to see if she can hear us. Jamie, if you're trying to speak on your phone, just mute yourself on your computer or vice versa. Because either way, you'll get feedback if they're both not muted. Okay, go ahead,
Can you
Henry.
hear me here? I'm trying. I tried on my phone, but my phone is.
Oh my gosh.
What's happening?
Okay. Hello?
What's happening?
Shh, quiet. Can you hear me? Just had to hang up my phone. Hopefully I won't.
We can hear you.
We can hear you.
Sounds
not freeze.
horrible.
Kennedy, stop. Yes, so we're on board report. So one is I wanted to. Excuse me. Shh, yes, I'm talking. One is so that I had presented to Henry an opportunity. It's a leadership opportunity for anyone who lives in or works in Marin. It's a free opportunity to learn more about equity and race equity in the center. So yes, I sent it. There's a link right there. That's the link, right, Henry? I'm assuming that's what I sent. Yeah. But if you want any more details, I'm sure you have Henry's email. He could send it to you. It'll be you have to apply, but it is a free opportunity. So feel free to share it with any colleagues or any professionally or personally. it'll be, again, you have to apply, but it'll be free once, if you do join. And then secondly, yes, I'd like to address the issue with Josh's forced resignation, as I understand it. And, you know, I'm disappointed that we are in this space. You know, I've been working with Josh for this long time. He has been our chair, and to not address it, I feel is an issue. I am concerned. I don't know. I think Susan, maybe you're probably the best one to address it here. From what I understand, it was, you know, I don't want to speak for you, but that it was, maybe you can address from your point of view, and I'm happy to address then from my point of view what happened. But I guess what I'm trying to raise is that if there are conflicts between staff and board members, or between board members, I'd really hope that we could have a direct conversation and be able to communicate so that we aren't having other people feel like they are put into positions of having to resign or not being able to have that space. I think we're all adults. So, so first I want to lay that out. I hope that, you know, if there are issues, we come either to each other or to figure out a way to do that rather than the way that it proceeded. So that's what I would like to address and talk about.
So maybe I can jump in here. So I believe Henry sent an email to all of the Board of
Can
Trustees.
people hear Susan, or is it just me that can't hear her?
Yes, we can hear Susan.
So
Me that can't hear anyone?
We can hear you, but maybe your speaker on your computer's turned
I
off.
cannot hear anyone. What is happening?
Can I suggest that we defer this till a point where Jamie can actually hear this and it can?
I'm gonna try and call in again if anyone can hear me, because I cannot hear anyone speaking. So I'm gonna call right back in.
Could I suggest we mute Jamie right now? And then have her call.
Wait.
okay, so why don't we go ahead, Henry, if it's okay with our.
Yeah, I'll do the staff comments, and then if she calls back in, we can go back to that. So Measure D committee hasn't met. Friends of the Library had a great book sale and made, I think, between $500 and $1,000, and they're excited. They're meeting tomorrow. The foundation canceled their meeting for our October. MarinNet board is meeting tomorrow. Susan will be attending, as well as myself, and we're going to be talking about RFID. NorthNet board has not met. New library building update is the release of the RFP on September 28th, and the ongoing process to get a conceptual design for the new combined library and community center in Albert Park. For the city librarian update, I just wanted to mention that our plans beyond curbside are to do a regional approach with concentrating on public computing at Pickleweed because they have a lab, curbside at downtown because it's working so well and we have a driveway, and trying to work with the county where they're going to provide staffing at first to open a browsing collection at the mall because everything's spaced out and it's kind of a really nice browsing place, protected from the elements, places for queuing. So we're working on the next steps, but you know, COVID minds no boundaries, and we're not sure how it will go, but that's what the general landscape looks like. And we wanted to also throw out that between now and the end of the year, the major agenda items would be the meeting schedule for next year, election of chair and vice chair, and a quarterly budget report, which would mean we don't really need to have two meetings. And we would like to throw out there choosing between having a November or a December meeting. That also, the November meeting falls on a city furlough day, and so it's a little bit already tricky to kind of have a meeting while we're actually supposed to be furloughed. So
Are you suggesting
that's the extent of my city librarian's report.
could we be discussing that now then? About deciding to do it December 10th and skipping November 10th?
General feedback on what that would, how the board would like to proceed would be useful for us in agenda planning.
Maybe December 8th. Maybe December 8th.
Yes.
Okay, sorry. And then Jamie, can you hear us?
Yes, can you hear me now?
Jamie, we deferred that conversation so we can hear you, but let us resolve this, Jason, and then we'll go back to your question. Is that okay?
Okay. Yes, can you hear me?
Totally can hear you perfectly.
Great, okay.
All right. So, members of the board, do you have any issues with postponing or canceling, excuse me, the November 10th meeting and moving it to December 8th?
What was on the November meeting, Henry, again? What was on the work plan?
The things we have left for the end of the year, and this is because the master fee schedule has been pushed off to the next year, possibly January or later. We only have the election of chair and vice chair and the quarterly budget report, as well as just our meeting schedule for the following year as the remaining agenda items for this calendar year. So we no longer have the master fee schedule, which is going to be a big item because it has to do with library fine.
I'm fine to cancel the November meeting if I need to motion, or is we just talking?
We need to hear from Adriana and Cheryl.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
fine.
Adriana?
I'm fine with canceling, yeah.
Yeah, me as well. Why don't I make a motion then to cancel the November 10th and consolidate everything to the December 8th meeting? Can someone
I'll
second?
second.
Okay. All in favor? Agenda, can you read down the list?
Yes, I can. Trustee Cortez,
Here, I think.
Trustee Duke Hughes,
Aye.
Trustee Fromm,
Oh, I meant.
Trustee Lentini,
Aye.
Acting Chair Ross.
Aye. Great.
I, not here, gender.
The motion's passed. Jamie, you can still hear us?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes. Very
Thank you.
Let's go back to this. This will be the final part of the meeting, and then we can adjourn from here.
Okay, so to go back into the topic, I believe Henry had sent out an email to all Board of Trustees members last week saying that Josh Labresco had resigned from his position on the board, and the City Council recognized him for his years of service and commitment at a City Council meeting on October 5th through a proclamation. So at this time, we are not able to make any further comment about the situation, nor discuss it.
Any questions from the trustee?
Well, again, I want to reiterate and think that that's disappointing. And I would say that as we move on, this obviously wasn't, our involvement here, any of us. I would just ask that if there are concerns amongst staff and board members, that it's resolved in a conversation and that we're able to do that in, a democratic manner, because I would not like to lose other members of the board that are clearly committed and have been committed for a period of time. So I hope that it does not proceed in that way again.
Great. Anyone else? Any other comments? Great. It's 7:19. I move to adjourn the meeting.
Oh, do I need a second? Second?
Ginger?
Oh, do we need a motion or we can just adjourn?
Okay.
And so the next meeting is going to be December 8th, 2020, and we're not meeting in November.
Great.
And we're doing 6 o'clock? Is that where, are we staying at the 6 o'clock time?
Yes, and apologies again for moving the 6 o'clock time without additional notice. We had just assumed that was going to work for everyone, so we're going to do it at 6 o'clock. Yes.